nose sewed. I have to sew more of the liners. That's what I was just doing. I was sewing more of the liners.
Okay.
So I was gonna, after we're done reading, when you're doing your treadmill, I'll sew more liners, and then when we watch stuff, I can sew or pin more masks. So then those will be all ready to sew tomorrow.
Okay. So I'm a little bit behind tonight, but I'm also ahead to, like, I've got boards now done up for 3 videos tomorrow, so that takes some pressure off me when I first wake up in the morning. I've had just the weirdest dreams ever. And for me, that's saying something. I was hanging out with...
has really weird
and this
dreams.
ties into my book. So it's probably because I've been reading this that I had a dream about my friend Ben that I used to work with, who was based on that kind of dopey character in this book. And in this dream, something happened I could have seen happening, which is we were working in an office or a call center or something. We didn't work in a call center. We worked at the meat plant together. And we went to lunch... and we were in the cafeteria, and I suddenly realized we had a 97-minute lunch that was supposed to be 30 minutes. So I was like, holy crap, we've been talking for 94 minutes, because I timed how long it took to get from the office down to the cafeteria. And when we went back up to our desks, our monitors were gone. And in that moment, I thought, I need to just quit. Because then it was like, the boss says if you want to get your monitors back, you have to go in his office. And I was like, and Ben and I were both looking at each other like, we could just quit. We could just, which is legitimately exactly how Ben and I would react. I totally need to message Ben and tell him. Because he would say, no, we would quit. Because, we would just say, forget it. Just walk away.
Nah,
That's fine. That's enough of that. So, and because most of the conversation was probably about how much we didn't enjoy our job. If you're at lunch for 97 minutes, you probably don't feel like going back to work. You don't have any sense of our coworkers might be getting swamped. We got a lot of work to do. Nah, that's not crossing your mind at all. So, okie dokie then. So we're gonna pick this up. Here we go. Where did we go to? There we are. That brings me into this conversation, Mike says, while a speechless crowd watches in the Los Angeles Coliseum. Keep in mind the Peace Restorer opened fire at the end of the last scene. See now, somewhere out there are my people. Falteres has opted not to recognize my declaration of war, and they have stated that Kale rightly cannot be overthrown, even if the majority of the military wants him gone. I'm sorry, but that's not how it works. The decision on who leads the military is a decision of the military itself, and politicians have no real say in it. I may respect Talia Laris as the leader of the people, but she is not the leader of my military. That's right, boys and girls. I said this is my military. When I recently left Falteres, I brought a few toys with me, and they're pretty to look at. I urge the people in the Coliseum to look to the sky overhead, Mike says with a smile. As they look up, Sabal and Ver included, the blue SS-210 fighters fly overhead, and Ken Young does the flips and twists he wanted to do in space, though here he gets to do it with the dramatic effect of gravity as well. They zigzag in the sky and cross paths with one another. They emit different colored streams of smoke, while the appreciative crowd cheers. See, because why not? Why not have a playful sort of, it can emit different colors of smoke as well. Almost as if they were set for an air show and for a war, because that's handy. Might be time to leave, Sabel says in their native tongue. He and Ver turn to leave together, and both leave Trake on his own. Trake's near the point of crying. He sees Sabal and Ver retreating in shame. He sees the fighters overhead and knows that he is now free. He lowers his head, narrows his eyes in the direction of Sabal and Ver. My turn. He growls, and then he uses his superior strength to quickly cover the distance between himself and his former captors. Back off, Trake, Sabal says in a menacing tone. You don't tell me what to do anymore, Trake says, and he launches Sabal with a right hook to the jaw, sending him through the air and down to the ground. He then turns to Ver, but gets hit with an electric jolt. Ver smiles. You forget we own you, Trake. You forget you're under our control. You don't think we'd have a plan for the day you'd think you were free? He advances on Trake and shocks the performer again. Trake didn't recall being implanted with any device that could shock him like this. He's been free, and yet he was still under their control. He opts to ignore the pain and lashes out. He strikes Ver and sends him flying through the air with a forearm smash to the jaw. I am free, he says breathlessly. I am Trake. Mike pilots the piece... Okay, this is the next scene. But they're all kind of connected, right? Mike pilots the Peace Restorer closer to the floating and dark, unstoppable, now in quotes, warship. He can't stop smiling as he does so while Addison continues with the speech for the masses. Mike is off camera now and is intent on making certain that this has been as effective as possible. The wreckage strikes the sides of the Peace Restorer, but it bounces off into space, with the hull able to take multiple strikes without any difficulty. Mike knew what his ship was capable of, but he didn't expect it to happen this quickly. He didn't think one shot would be enough, and yet here's the proof that one shot is more than enough for this battle. He'd expected to get a serious fight from the ship that had never been challenged in a battle before now. As he looks at the ship floating before him, he wonders if this is a fake-out. He wonders if the real Ultilian ship is waiting somewhere to blow the Peace Restorer out of the stars, in an act of vengeance that'll be remembered for all time. Maybe Gora knew all along what was going on and created an elaborate trap meant to allow final victory for the Ultilian Armada. There's no sound, and even though Mike has a lot of experience with space skirmishes, the utter quiet is always unsettling. There's no fire in space, no noise, and everything seems to clean and cold. It's not something that Mike feels he'll ever get used to. As he inspects the damage from his ship, he sees something else entering the picture. It would appear to be the modified Arcology 1237 in the form of Terran Force 1, and moving, revealing itself for possible battle. They actually got it up and running, Mike says to himself while Addison continues to speak. He then runs a check on the warship floating before him for any life forms and finds there are Ultilians alive there. This means he has to go over and investigate. He stands in front of the camera at Addison's side. I'd like to thank Earth for its attention. While you watched us speak, I managed to destroy pretty damn near everything Ultilian in orbit. You'll have full protection of Falteris from this moment on, he says, and then he cuts the feed. Addison finally lets out a healthy sigh. He was waiting to come out since they started talking and feels that was a lifetime ago. Holy crap, did that really happen? I've been living as a coward for so long. He looks out at the floating wreckage. You're going to look for survivors, aren't you? Mike nods. I have to. It's time to get it's time to get some prisoners of war. If Gora's over there, I have to retrieve him at all costs. I have to go get Trake. You have any of those fighters left behind down there? Addison asks. Yeah, let's go to it. Every minute we spend here is a minute that those guys have to escape and go home. Mike and Addison leave the bridge together, the ship in the capable hands of the rest of the bridge crew. The Peace Restorer has proven itself so far, but the battle is not actually won yet. Now we go back to the surface. Trake grabs Ver by the throat and then spots Sibel crawling towards their ship. The crawl proves to be in vain as John Webster dives from the sky and fires a laser blast which blows their ship up. Trake pulls Ver close. Shock me again. I want to see what you've got. You cannot win this one, Trake, Ver says while choking for air. It's terrible feeling trapped, isn't it? Do you know how many dead people I've been made to abuse for the enjoyment of Gora? Do you know how sick it made me to play to you people, the lowest form of life in the galaxy? Sibel gets to his feet and makes his way to Trek. This is not a battle they will win, he says, as he pulls a device from his pocket. He presses a button and a portal opens, which Sibel quickly steps through. Damn it, Ver mutters in his native language. He didn't plan for a possible failure since such a thing was unthinkable to him until minutes ago. Up until this very moment, where he saw their fighter destroyed in a ball of flame, Ver believed they were going to kill all of their attackers. Trake carries Ver out of the stadium while a stunned crowd inside the Coliseum just watches the spectacle. Few of them certain of what exactly they've witnessed here. There's confusion as to whether or not the fighters which have destroyed the Ultilian ship are actually intending to cause harm to their people as well. A lone fighter dives from the sky and then hovers 6 feet above ground for 30 seconds while the crowd watches in silence. There are a few who are running for the exits, but most sit and watch in awe at what's happening. The ship slowly lands, the gear dropping a moment before it touches ground. Stairs then emerge from the side of the ship next to the cockpit and the canopy opens. John Webster steps out of the ship and the crowd cheers. He's seen as the leader of Division 1237, and worldwide he's seen as a hero. He stands in the cockpit, waves to the crowd, tears in his eyes. This is the moment he has waited for since the truncated battle on the Arcology, which seems like a lifetime ago. John steps down from the cockpit and uses the ladder to make his way to the ground. He then casually walks over to the microphone which Trake had been using moments ago. This is a glorious day for Earth, he says. I know many of us are scared at what might happen and of what Ultil could do to us. Many are afraid of their power, their intelligence, and their experience with war. Our world has been scarred, has been overcrowded, and has been ripe for what my mother says always stated would be a cleansing of the world. I don't believe we needed to be cleansed in such a manner. I believe we can grow together, learn to handle things right, and we can beat back our enemies. You saw the power Falteris provides us as an ally. I'm here today as a member of Special Operations Team and the leader of Division 1237, which is now run from Terran Force 1, a modified arcology, which will be the first of many to provide security to this planet. The future's frightening. I know it can be difficult to trust anything when life is unfair. I grew up in an environment which preached hatred and fear. That's not what I believe in. That's not what the men I serve with believe in either. We'll protect this world with our lives. We'll protect every man, woman, and child. We will ensure that those who died in Arcology 652, 443, as well as 1237 did not die in vain. We will not act in the name of revenge, but in the name of justice. The crowd cheers John on while Trake watches from the sidelines, still with Ver in his clutches. He's smiling and proud of being with these people. He believes he just found a new home. That's the end of the book. Yeah, that's not the end of the book, didn't you? All right. Mike shakes hands with Addison and the docking bay before Addison is going to step into the SS-210. It's been incredible meeting someone from that world we knew nothing about. I'm really glad you overcame your fears and stepped up when you did. You helped to save Earth. Addison sighs. This is just the first battle, Mike. We caught the Altilians off guard, but it likely won't happen again. I'm just proud to have been at your side when that shot was fired on their warship. This is a day that will be remembered for the rest of time. Addison makes his way to the cockpit, and Mike heads towards a shuttle. The shuttle's unlike any of the other ones in the docking bay. It's unarmed, as all the shuttles are, but this one has high-power shielding. It's made for running blockades, and it's the only one of its kind in Mike's possession, as their shielding is expensive and the military closely guards them. Mike feels fortunate to have this one as he takes his seat and starts the power-up sequence. The SS-210 takes off in a flash while the shuttle is still in the middle of powering up. It's a remarkable difference between the two craft, and Mike feels very alone right now, the only man in the docking bay. His shuttle then hovers off the floor before it lurches forward towards the Altilian ship straight ahead. Though the shuttle doesn't move very fast, it's compact. There's only room for a maximum of 3 people in this craft, and Mike isn't going out with the intention of picking anyone up. This isn't really what this mission's about. The prisoners of war will be collected by the Peace Restorer itself after he does a little check of his own. Altilians were infamous for rigging traps after being defeated in a battle. Didn't happen often, but when it did, every Altilian had the potential to blow themselves up and scream about their martyrdom on their way out. By heading to their ship, Mike was aware he might be walking into a trap. This didn't mean he should sit back and allow them a chance to escape without prosecution. There was still doubt in the back of Mike's mind about whether or not his people would accept that he was rightfully the leader of Falteri's army. He just had to push his way through any negativity and backlash, since he knew it was for the best in the end. He had to hope his people agreed with him, or at least that a majority of them did. As the shuttle cautiously plunges into space from the safety of the docking bay, Mike looks over his shoulder as if to view how vulnerable he is now. Shields or not, he really didn't want to fall prey to a trap. He just kept telling himself that this had to be done, and he was the only man for the job. He heads straight for the Altilian ship at a speed that might make him easy to intercept if they have any fighters they didn't send to Earth. One fighter might weaken his shields or perhaps simply run into him in a final act of bravery or cowardice, depending on your point of view. The shuttle slows as he pulls back on the controls, far too close to the Altilian ship to feel comfortable. Even if this ship is adrift, it could power up at any time, and that would end his mission quickly. The shuttle pulls alongside a gaping hole in the ship. Force fields appear to be in place, and they're holding the generated atmosphere inside the ship, preventing it escaping. As Mike moves alongside the ship, there are no signs of life that he can see in the darkness. His readings state there's still life in the ship, and likely plenty of it. He isn't going to explore the entire ship. There is one particular biological signature Mike's looking for. It's possible he won't find it, which would indicate that Gora either died or escaped. He knows Gora wasn't on the planet for Trake's show. He has scanned for that. It was a little-known fact that there was a biological database for all Earthlings and Altilians who'd ever set foot on Falteris. It was a security measure the Altilians didn't know about. Every creature gives off a unique biological combination of scent, heat, and of course DNA residue. The machines Mike had at his disposal have this information on a database that very few knew about. It's this database that tells Mike that Gora's in his quarters. He knows this because Gora's ship has been mapped out extensively in previous encounters between supposed allies. This ship has another secret, a modification Mike Translow himself asked for when he commissioned this particular shuttle through Alex Landers of Gill Manufacturing. The shuttle moves itself sideways and latches onto the side of the Altilian vessel. A small opening appears on the side of Mike's shuttle, revealing the hull of the unstoppable ship. There's an audible zapping noise, which is accompanied by the smell of melting paint, plastic, and steel. The hull pieces then fall into Mike's shuttle, and he raises his weapon and steps through the hole left behind into Gora's quarters. There he finds a shocked Gora, who's clearly trying to find a way out. The combination of heat and humidity inside this ship make Mike sweat immediately, but he doesn't have time to focus on that. He trains his weapon on Gora. "How did you get in here, and how did you cripple my ship?" Gora asks. "Maybe you're not the superior one after all," Mike says with a smirk. "You're coming with me." Gora shakes his head. "Translow, I cannot do that. I cannot be a prisoner of war." "I wasn't asking," Mike responds. "I understand, but you don't. If I'm taken prisoner, my people will shun me. They'll turn against me and my forces. This would be the ultimate humiliation for me," Gora says, in as pleading a tone as he can manage. He's really choking down the hatred right now. I know more than you think," Mike says as Gora raises a weapon. The laser blast barely misses Mike as Mike is forced to pull the trigger. While Gora's shot meets the wall and makes a large hole in it, Mike's shot hits Gora right in the forehead and he falls backward in a heap. Mike then takes a few more shots at the downed and motionless Gora. He gets to his feet short of breath as fear causes his heart to race. Absolute prick trying to kill me while I was finally showing you how superior you're not. He kicks the downed Gora and then picks him up over his shoulder and drops him through the hole in the wall that leads back to the shuttle. Mike then steps back into it, closing the opening on his ship, and leaves a hole in Gora's quarters for the Altilians to see. As Mike pilots the shuttle back towards his ship, he looks over at Gora. He can see the Altilian leader's chest is rising and falling. "I would have killed you, but you wanted to die. I wanted you to live in humiliation. That's your destiny." The Peace Restorer's crew anxiously awaits Mike's return. Next scene. How long is this scene? I don't know. I think Yvonne's bored at this point.
No.
And you're all done your pinning, so.
I'm turning these ones right side out.
Pinning's all done, so. It's not a big deal.
And go.
Okay. Ver stands before John Webster, Drake at his side. He can barely contain his venom, but he knows this isn't the time. The entire planet's watching, and it would appear most are happy with the actions of John and his allies. It's a terrible turn of events for Altil, and Ver is angry with Gora's lack of foresight here. "This is quite the moment, you know," John says with a wide grin. "Media members close enough to be filming and taking notes on what's happening. You might want to say something grand and wondrous to preserve this moment forever." Ver takes a deep breath and looks around at the press members. He cannot imagine a way that this could have gone worse. He could kill Sibel for running out as he did, and he could kill himself for not bringing a similar device with him. "This is a mistake," is the only response he can formulate this moment facing John Webster. "Why is it a mistake?" John asks, stepping closer to Ver. "Your kind came here and started this. This trip was meant to placate us the same way you placate Mike Translow's people. The problem is Earthlings are more suspicious and judgmental than you give us credit for. I'm glad it finally did some good for us." Ver manages a smirk. "What do you do now, John? You make me your prisoner, and then what? You have a few pretty ships here, and Alto will soon destroy them and all of you." John laughs. "Ver, you're clueless. If you think we only have a few ships, or that we're not fully capable of mounting one heck of a fight against your kind when you do attack, you're dead wrong. You can't pull off another covert operation here. You can't pull the wool over our eyes, and people like Mike, Addison, and my new friend Trake here can reveal to the world what atrocities your kind have committed in the names of being masters of the galaxy. You know that whole thing about payback and what it is, right?" he asks with a wink. "I was about to tell you the same thing, Mr. Webster. You see, this pomp and circumstance is great for all the cameras and for your people. But this cannot end well for your side. It's never ended well for anyone who's faced us in the past. This moment, this eternal moment, will be remembered as the beginning of the end of Earth." "Take him away," John says, and special operations officers present do as they're told. John watches as Ver exits the Coliseum. Cameras catching every moment of this and ignoring the fact that Dave Bellows is now here. Dave makes his way over to John, his pain having subsided. His mind's clear as he looks upon John Webster and the cheering crowd. "John, I was wrong," he says, and he extends a hand to John with his admission. "About?" John asks, baffled while shaking hands with Dave. "When I saw the report from these things and the big deal they made over DNA, I should have ignored it. Instead, I bring your brothers in and serve them up to Blair Drake. That wasn't my intention, but that's how it turned out, and I apologize for that and for being an old fool. John wants to find fault in that self-deprecating remark, but he can't refute it. Instead, he tries to be diplomatic. Dave, you have so many years of experience, but this is as new for you as it is to any of us. No one knew I and my brothers were different. If it was news to us the same as it was to you, you have no way of knowing what Blair was up to there, or that there was anything going on with that portion of the building. Dave sighs. John, this is a big moment for this planet, but I have news for you. You need to go to the hospital. I'll drive. Dave says as he leads John by the arm toward the exit. What happens? John's heart sinks even before being told by Dave what happens. When Dave starts acting like a father, it has to be bad. Your mother got some crazy idea in her head, walked into the crime scene Blair Drake left behind and decided to take the red liquid they were working on. She took a crazy amount, John. She then walked out of the building and ran across a drug-addicted woman who stole that liquid and stabbed your mother as well. Moments later, drug addicts taken enough of the liquid to be bat-crap insane. She kills herself, and now your mother's in the hospital. They're trying their best, but there are internal injuries they don't know that they will be able to repair, Dave says as he and John get into this personal vehicle. John sits in silence as the ship takes off and he speeds towards the hospital. My brothers, John says. You have to tell my brothers. Dave nods. I sent word to Terran Force 1. They'll be here shortly. I'm so sorry, John. This just doesn't seem to have any end to it. We have the cure for that crap, but some of the people who might be infected are proving to be damn hard to find on an overpopulated planet. I don't want that becoming a witch hunt, too. I see what your family was put through and everything gets muddy in the grand scheme of things. This was supposed to be a great day for the world, John says, as the hospital gets closer. There's a landing platform on the roof which is clear for them to use. There's enough room there for the rest of the brothers to use when they arrive as well. It's a great day for this world, John. It's the day you won a major victory and became the new leader of the Special Operations Team. It's a decision Dave made before he arrived at the Coliseum, and he knows it's the right one. This time to let the next generation take over and make him proud. And that's the end of that chapter. And then that's the end of the book.
No.
It's not, though, but yeah. And then, wait, what happens here? Chapter 1, 2. I'm just trying to find the divider between the one book and the next. Just to figure out.
You figure it out.
Okay, so 21 more pages in Volume 2, and then we go into Volume 3. So Volume 2 is going to take fewer videos than Volume 1 did, but I think we're doing longer chapters or longer videos now.
Yeah.
So I have to do my treadmill and continue to maintain the battle of being middle-aged and, make sure that my weight loss is maintained.
Keep your girlish figure.
That's true, yes. But, yeah, so... Not a bad day today. Still the general trolling stuff that's been so bizarre lately. It's been really weird. But I want to thank people who've been supporting this channel as well as the hockey channel. My only job that I've seen throughout all this is to continue to provide content for people and to try to provide some sense of normalcy while things aren't normal. Distraction and optimism. And even if I'm not as 100% optimistic as I may sound in videos, it's necessary. Because there's a lot of not optimistic stuff on TV right now. And a lot of just alarming stuff. So I think, if I'm going to make a YouTube video, I want to make sure I make people feel better. There was one suggestion in a video today that I should do a video on the child abuse allegations against people from Maple Leaf Gardens from years ago. And I'm like, no.
Why?
Because according to that comment, it's something that should be revealed and should be talked about. And I'm thinking, no, we've got enough negative news right now. I don't need to start getting into the really ugly, seedy side of things.
Things that people have done.
No, I don't.
Not.
That's not. If somebody wants to start like a Dark Side of Hockey kind of channel, go for it. I don't really want to do that.
What?
That's not my thing.
What? What is it, Bear?
That's absolutely not my thing. Do I think those videos would get views? Maybe. Is it a
know.
good idea? No, it's not a good idea. So,
She's neglected.
it's the same reason. Like,
you come sit down. It's
I
our
try
sitting
not to.
time.
I try not to get into some of the really controversial stuff that's happened with hockey players over the years too, because it's not really in the same vein as the other stuff I talk about. Because yes, there's some ugly stuff out there, and I don't really talk about it. I really don't. There's some ugly stuff that's the reason why certain players don't end up in my favorites. Be like, why isn't this guy in your favorites? I'm like, oh, there's reasons. But I'm not going to get into that. I just say, no, not one of my favorite players, and I leave it at that. But thank you guys so much for all your support throughout. We're over 6 weeks into this, and we'll continue going. And thank you guys so much for helping. So, anyways, thanks again.
Happy kitty.
And yes, she is. She always looks angry, but she's never
It's
angry.
her markings.
Yeah,
it's
she
the
is.
markings on her face that make her look really crabby.
She's actually never.
She's such a
She's
happy
never
kitty,
an
though.
angry cat. I've never seen her actually mad.
She's always happy or scared.
Yes, she's always.
Those are her feelings: happy or scared.
Yes.
Aren't you?
Yes. So
Yes.
we'll probably watch some Lucifer. We're almost done
She's a
season 1 of
snuggly
Lucifer, and
Aren't you? This
so
is normally our sitting time.
we do enjoy the show
Isn't
Lucifer.
it?
So it's actually been kind of. And I got into it because I saw him in Legends of Tomorrow, and I'm like, yeah, I should give that show a shot. So, anyways, thanks again for watching. We'll do this again probably in a few weeks. And yeah, so between now and a few weeks from now, keep yourselves safe. Stay at home if you can. And I will talk to you again soon.